Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our second Socialist Telly programme within, more or less back-to-back. Had a storming programme this morning looking at the first of the local election results coming in and what appears to be disaster there for Keir Starmer. And now looking at the positive that there is there for the Labour movement. I'm very delighted to welcome, along with Damo from Socialist Telly, Nicola James from Bath, who is a Unite community member. And Unite Community nominated yesterday and was the first branch that we're aware of to nominate in the whole contest for Unite General Secretary. We nominated Howard Beckett and was the first of a quite quick little succession there of branches from around the UK to come in and support Howard. As you know, I personally, as in terms of running squawk books, I'm supporting Howard for that position. Most of the people, I think, if not everybody on Socialist Telly is doing the same. And, no doubt the reasons for that will get explored a bit during this. But what we really want to look at is what went on down there in Bath and Bristol branch yesterday in terms of Unite Community nominating Howard, why he appeals to Unite Community members, and, what the nitty gritty of the discussion was as to why they decided they were going to nominate him by a ratio, I think, of almost 4-1. So welcome, Nicola. Thank you, Damo, for joining us. And tell us a little bit. If I remember rightly, you went to the meeting, virtually speaking, but then found out that despite being a Bath and Bristol member previously, they've moved the boundaries slightly, and you now find yourself lumped in with Swindon, but you're still aware of what went on there in the meeting.
Yes, that's right. Thanks for having me, Damo and Steve. Yes, it was the Bristol and Gloucestershire area Community Unite meeting yesterday, which, living in Bath, I thought that I came under that branch, and so did another lady that was in the meeting. But Bath seems to be carved up a little bit unusually, and I'm actually come under the Swindon branch, which will be having their meeting on the 20th of May. So I had to leave the meeting, but I was messaged the outcome of the vote. And Howard Beckett got 74%, 74% of the vote, so pretty overwhelming. And he's been a strong advocate for the work of Unite Community. So I was personally very pleased with that result.
3-1. I should have said sorry there rather than 4-1. Demo, you're a Unite Community member as well, if I remember correctly.
Yes. I remember.
What's the chatter like down in Cornwall about the nomination process?
I received my nomination invite yesterday. So Cornwall Community, or Unite Community Cornwall, if I get it in the right order, they're nominating on the 12th of May. So positive. It's Unite in Cornwall seem to be very much the socialist side of things. So optimistic, hopeful, and yes, I shall be absolutely in attendance to try and get Howard over the line there as well. I am feeling quite optimistic, quite hopeful. It's really nice actually that community has come out strongly for Howard right off the get-go, because community have been misled to a degree by apparently being told that Howard Beckett plans to disband community membership, when the opposite is the case. He plans to expand it. So it's heartening that some dishonesty has not cut through to the community branches, and they are voting accordingly.
It's astonishing, isn't it? Because Howard's always been really strong on the importance of Unite's role in the society, not just in the workplace, and that politics is about the community. And my understanding is, right from the concept of Unite Community, he was instrumental in advocating for it, in drawing up, the program for it for membership, and he developed the package. So he's always supported, Community Unite, and it's never been more important, to have people represented, from the membership and, sort of the most vulnerable in society. I read an extraordinary comment the other day in a newspaper that I won't name, that said, we don't need unions anymore. The media, we can rely on the newspapers to sort of hold politicians to account. And I thought, oh my God, can anybody really think that? And just today, another Grenfell, who's held this government to account for, not, sort of for not following through on their pledges and promises and their responsibilities. Howard Beckett's a really powerful advocate, and he leads from the front. He's a strong voice. He's got the energy and passion and the skills, so, there's no other choice as far as I'm concerned.
You call it a newspaper. I think it might be one of those right-wing comics. You might have mistaken it for, to be quite honest.
I think you've got that right.
In that kind of language. No, trade unionism is needed now more than ever before. Obviously, myself and Steve have already done a lengthy show this morning extolling the state of the two main parties in relation to the results that are coming through from the local elections at the moment. But if that doesn't paint a picture of how badly trade unionism is needed, people standing up for working people, for socialism, for solidarity, for collectivism, I don't know what is. And Howard extols all of those virtues.
I'm not a Unite. I'm a Unite kind of working branch member, if you like, but not that people in Unite community don't work, but it's largely, it's for unwaged people for whatever reason. I've argued since it was known that there's going to be a campaign that Unite community, which has 14,000 members, which is a substantial constituency in the context of the usual size of votes in Unite General Secretary elections, that it should be a core kind of strong constituency for Howard, essentially, because the people in that in Unite community, they don't have to be in for a workplace requirement. They're in there because they're politically engaged and they believe in trying to improve their society, their local community, etc., which is where the name comes from. And there will even more than most Unite members, I think, appreciate Howard's engagement in terms of politics, in terms of calling out not just the Tories, but also the right-wing Labour when they need to be called out, etc. And I think that's been reflected in the fact that this smear was very quickly generated as soon as the campaign kicked off by Howard Beckett's opponents that he wants to wind down community. And I mean, we've got a quick video I'll show here if that's okay, where we can actually see one of several responses from Howard. I mean, he did talk to you, Damo, last year about it and talk about how he wanted to build it up. So his commitment to that predates the election campaign. It's not just from the point of view of, he'd better say something on it now. It's something that he's been saying before there was ever a contest. But this is what Howard said in a video he made for Squawk Box not long after the campaign opened, with those smears coming out and taking them on directly, as he's done with everything else really at the moment.
Have always supported community. In fact, I was one of those who advocated for before it was launched. Hi, it's Howard Beckett here, Assistant General Secretary of Unite. I've just read the Squawk Box article. It seems there's no end to the smears. I'm hearing it all. If it's not about me personally, if it's not about my life before I was in the trade union, I've heard this rumour that I'm going to do in education, and now a completely outrageous lie that I have some agenda to stop community. The truth could not be further from the mark. I've always supported community. In fact, I was one of those who advocated for it before it was launched. I developed a package for community membership. I've always talked about the fact that we need more people in the union from the cradle to the grave. We need to be ambitious about how we attract people into the union. And I've always said on the record that Unite is about its role in society as well as the role in the workplace. As important as the workplace is, we all know that Unite has a responsibility to speak for the most vulnerable in society. That's the role that we've taken on over the last 12 years, and I support it completely. So no, whenever I launch my manifesto, you'll see policies in there that are intended to help community membership, drive up the membership, and to reflect the fact that I understand the issues that they're going through in their own societies, and I'm determined that Unite will take on those issues. So thank you. It's another smear. Please ignore it. Put the record straight. Beckett backs community. Thank you.
Yeah, it was
straight from the horse's mouth.
It is. Yeah, it was last July that I spoke to Howard the first time I interviewed him. We spoke about community, and he was absolutely dedicated to it at that point in time as well. And of course, I interviewed him quite recently when I put all those awful smears and tall tales and accusations that have been leveled against him directly to him. And this was one of the things that I put to him. It was believe it was how I ended the show. Yeah, we put it to him directly to restate his commitment to community, and he happily did so. He gladly did so. There's no qualms from my perspective that Howard Beckett is utterly devoted to continuing with community and expanding on it. And community members come from all walks of life, as you say, Steve. We were unwaged, but for whatever reason, I've spoken numerous times about the fact I'm an unpaid carer. My wife and daughter are both disabled, but I had a trade before that. I was always in a trade union before that, and I appreciate the need for that sense of collectivism. That's as you stand as a group of people, as you do within a trade union, you have strength in numbers. You have that support, and even though I'm unwaged now, a carer, there's still a place for me in a trade union. And in fact, in Unite, because of the community membership, there is a place for everybody in trade unionism if you need that support. And let's face it, unpaid carers such as myself, we don't get a heck of a lot of attention from the media or from the main political parties. So the fact that somebody is there for us and does give a damn and wants to try and improve our lot in life, and mean we're not being taken advantage of so much, because at the end of the day we're caring for our loved ones. We've got no choice but to do that, and that leaves us open to exploitation in a lot of ways. But for a trade union is to still stand up and say, yeah, we're gonna back you, we're gonna represent you, there's a place for you here, is a wonderful thing, and absolutely it must continue.
Yeah, I have to say the union culture was new to me. Historically I hadn't worked in companies that sort of had union representation, and the reason I got involved 4 years ago with Unite Community is some years before that I had a catastrophic sort of road accident that multiple surgeries, changed my life, medically retired, but I was very lucky going through the medical legal process that I was able to stand up for myself. But I met so many people along the way, in hospital, at physio, hydrotherapy, that were being really shamefully let down, and some of them were just not able to represent themselves. So I started getting involved in advocacy for people that needed help. And then I found out about Unite Community and the amazing work that they were doing. They have a team of advocates, a whole range of services, support services for people. And there is a myriad of reasons why people, become members. It's because they don't fit, Unite Community, they don't fit, they're not waged, they're not employed in an industry. But Unite Community is a very valuable, sort of and strong arm of Unite. And, I have, because of the reasons that I came into Unite Community, I certainly wouldn't be, sort of supporting Howard if I did not think he was 100% behind that. I mean, he's the embodiment of, sort of empowering members and empowering people. He fights from the front, he leads, and he's not afraid to stand up and speak out. I mean, he is a fairly lone voice in actually holding politicians to account, and even, the right wing of the Labour Party at the moment. So, it's just a no-brainer for me. Do you know what I mean? Howard just is, a shining light that we need at the moment. And, I'm so glad, Damo, that, you've put to bed some of those, appalling smears that, have been, being put out to, mislead people.
Yeah, it was an important program, I think. I'm very glad that we did it. I must admit, I didn't feel, I'm quite a nice cuddly voiced person, really. I don't really go in for hard line interviews like that, but it was worth doing. And Howard was absolutely on board with doing it, and he understood completely that the way it needed to be done. That interview had to be hard hitting. The questions had to be put to him bluntly. Started it off as I intended to go on. Did you thieve from the miners? And he went off and he explained that, and all the other accusations that were leveled at him at the same time as well. So yeah, I think it's such a shame that the other candidates are not prepared to do likewise, actually. But coming back to the community membership, in your case, Nicola, you had a life-changing experience. That can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
And who is going to be there to help you and to support you and to pick you up should something like that, should, goodness, God forbid it happen to anyone, but these things do. Who's going to be there to support you? The trade union movement is absolutely there, and Unite community is there for all, and you get a lot of support, a lot of solidarity. You're not alone, and it's a great feeling of security to have that support network there. It's well worth, it only costs a couple of pounds a month. Doesn't break the bank.
Yeah.
But it's worth its weight in gold.
And it's also a great way to give back and to donate your time and skills to helping other people, and the training that Unite provide sort of for their members. For me and for me actually, it was a step into the Labour Party. I'd been hesitant about joining. I have socialist left values, but I was very inspired by Jeremy Corbyn. But Unite was probably the first step I took, and then on to becoming a Labour member. But something that I talked about with Steve the other day was that although I was very impressed, those of us that have been paying attention and seeing how well Howard has represented us in the Labour Party on the National Executive Committee, as well as Unite members holding people to account, I still wanted to ask them questions and do some due diligence. And Damo, you'll know that I've been asking lots of questions. And what was really heartening is the amount of stories that came out from people that we all know on Twitter, social media, that privately shared stories about Howard, and how he had, behind the scenes, without any fanfare, had helped them, gone the extra mile, and always been incredibly supportive. And, somebody said he just doesn't blow his own trumpet, and that was the real measure of a man. And I can't remember who was the quote that said, integrity is what people do when no one's watching. And I think, the wonderful stories that I heard about really kind and things that really made a difference and supported people that Howard's done behind the scenes. So many of those stories came out, and that really impressed me.
Yeah.
Yes. I think you've both touched on some stuff there, but I think one of the key things for me, is the way that he did, there's been a number of smears launched, which I think has been reflective of the, how much the other campaigns are worried about him. And worried about the start that he's made. But, we've seen none of the other candidates that I can think of yet come and actually take part in the debate or a hustings. None of them have been prepared to face scrutiny, face any difficult questions. Next Monday, there'll be a hustings program. But again, at the moment, it looks set to feature just Howard, because he's the one prepared to come on and face the questions, which will include live questions from viewers. And, we, Socialist Telly, offered all the other candidates, all three of them, their choice of an independent chair to agree among themselves as to who would actually run the program. So they couldn't claim they were getting a hostile welcome because, Socialist Telly supports Howard Beckett, etc. And one campaign responded to say that they weren't going to do it, and claimed schedule, but then still didn't come back and say they could do it when we offered them a different date. And the other two candidates haven't responded at all. And we did see one say, "Why the F would I get involved in any hustings?" which is an interesting approach to a campaign, frankly. I agree with you, Nicola, about one of the things that I think has been an issue is that when Howard Beckett is he's involved in a lot of campaigns. I mean, apart from anything, he's running he's legal, financial, political director at Unite, as well as assistant general secretary. But he's up to his elbows in campaigns all the time, on the picket lines, in industrial disputes, etc. When those disputes get won, his instinct is to point to, and I think it's brilliant that he does, but his instinct is to point to the guys on the picket line and the rank and file members, so to speak, that have participate in that campaign and let them take the credit for the win. And sometimes we see other candidates taking credit for stuff that maybe they haven't had that much involvement with, which is again a bit of a contrast, and shows, I think, what you want at the helm of the union, not not somebody who's going to let others do the work and then try and claim credit for it or whatever. Yeah. So I think that's vital. But I mean, tell us, in concrete terms, in terms of the discussion in Unite Community Bath and Bristol last night for who was going to be nominated. I mean, what kind of things were people raising for and against Howard? What was the what was it in the end that persuaded 3 out of 4 people at the meeting to vote for him?
I don't know, actually, because I had to leave the meeting before it actually started. I just got the result, but I have been, I am in sort of chat with quite a few people that are in that meeting. So I think the things that we've been discussing, just now, the fact that he has been very visible in speaking up for us, he's, membership democracy is a big issue at the moment. A lot of people feel that, rules are being flouted or picked and chosen, and protocols are being discarded, and people feel disenfranchised. And suddenly we've got, a voice, not just within Unite, but I mean, I feel sort of probably more heavily entrenched within Labour, because I've been active sort of in the constituency party here in Bath. But Howard has been a voice. He's been speaking up for us, insisting on membership rights, and because party democracy seems to have been forgotten. And our party, the Labour Party, they're supposed to be the political arm of the unions, and Unite is the biggest union. And Howard, visibly, and of course Len McCluskey, have been the only two that I'm aware of actually holding anybody to account and speaking up for members. And that's really important. And, it is our party, it is our union, and we want somebody that respects that membership democracy and will stand up for our rights. And he's not afraid to do that. Am I wrong? Have I missed anybody else standing up?
I don't think so. I mean, and you guys down in the Southwest have been right at the sharp end of that anti-democratic behaviour by the Labour Party in terms of, selections of the mayoral candidate, in terms of, even being told, if I remember rightly, it was Bristol, where, the party tried to ban one of the branches from giving money to a food bank. Because they wanted it on the campaign that wasn't, to be spent on the campaign that, for a candidate that members hadn't chosen.
Extraordinary. I know. I mean, this is, Bath is one of the wealthiest CLPs, in the country. And we had a sum of money that hadn't been spent sending delegates to conference, which was cancelled because of COVID last year. And, we've got various budgets, our accounting and, is responsible. And, we let our members decide. Our executive committee, will make recommendations and present what our financial situation is. And, with, the devastating effect that COVID's had, in, communities right across the country, there was a proposal, which was a very reasonable proposal in the circumstances. And it is a form of, us being visible in and supporting our community. We wanted to donate that money, between 3 very worthwhile charities that would help, the people at the sharpest end. And that was supposed to go to our members, in emotion. And we got a last minute communication forbidding us, along, many of the CLPs have had these edicts, come from regional or HQ, forbidding us to do that. And it's really up to the members how we spend our money. If we were being financially irresponsible and it didn't leave us money, to meet our responsibilities and our campaigning obligations, but this is a form of campaigning, and, frankly, if we weren't going to spend that money on something else, then we were going to do something very positive in the community, supporting people that needed it. what better PR could there be for the Labour Party than actually putting their money where their mouth is? I mean, you know, I recognise that the long-term strategy is, you know, in terms of is helping those people by changing policies, getting into government. Of course there is, but there's an immediate need, you know, and we could do something about that. And I was very angry that, you know, that decision was taken away from our members, you know.
Yes, and I think, you know, if you're not going to, you know, if a union candidate isn't going to stand up for people in those sort of situations, stand up for free speech, but also stand up for the vulnerable, you know, and the people who are facing hunger and every, you know, all the other hardships that people have got at the moment. You know, I don't know what they're doing at the head of a union, frankly. So we need somebody who's not prepared to, not afraid to stand up and shout and make a noise about that kind of thing and take it head on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, our goals are to get people elected. Our goals are to change policy, you know, to make lives better for people's lives better. But if there's an immediate need right here, right now, and our members want to use some of their money, do you mean that they can well afford to use to do some good in the community? It's extraordinary. You know, I had to question which party I was in. You know, I mean, you know, and you know, going back to Howard, you know, he's also on our National Executive Committee in the Labour Party, as well as, you know, having a very important role within Unite. And, you know, he stood up for us. He's really the strongest advocate we've got at the moment for membership democracy, be it within Unite or within the Labour Party. And he's a very important voice, you know, and other candidates have shied off speaking out. And that's deeply concerning, you know. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's, you know, I think whether it's on the industrial front, you know, again, this American kind of campaign idea that, you know, by the right in America, that you attack your opponents on their strengths. And we've seen other campaigns going, you know, trying to cast aspersions on Howard from his industrial involvement, you know, from his awareness of stuff on the right at the coalface, you know, on the picket line, etc. And he's been, you know, right at the heart of, you know, he won the two Birmingham Bins disputes for the workers there when a Labour so-called council, you know, 4 years ago and then 2 years ago was trying to do fire and rehire even then on bin workers to drive down their terms and conditions. And Howard was up to his neck in that and won it for those guys, and that, you know, they love him down there. We've seen on the British Airways thing with the fire and rehire. We've seen, you know, all over the place, Ineos and so on. He's right in there in the industrial disputes, and yet his opponents are trying to claim that he's not, and make out as though, you know, this idea of we've got to go back to the workplace as though Unite's not already there, etc. Let's have a look at a couple of comments coming in, because there were some questions coming in from people. Jackie Nash is asking, which union can support a disabled person alone? So, Dema, you care for disabled people in your family? Maybe you're in the best position to answer this one.
Unite Community. It is as simple as that. It costs me something like £2.29 a month. It might have gone up in the new tax year. I haven't actually checked, but it was £2.29 a month. It's not a lot of money, and we will absolutely support people from all walks of life, regardless of what your circumstances are. If you are unwaged, that doesn't necessarily mean unemployed, although it does cover people that are unemployed. It covers people like me who are unpaid carers as well. And it covers disabled people as well. You know, there is a place in a trade union for you, and it is within Unite, and you will be part of a supportive family of people who will stand by you, help you, support you in whatever needs you need. Thank you very much, Carol Alexander Rosser. 238 has gone up to, apparently. So, but yeah, it's not a lot of money. It's a very small amount of money, and if you can afford it, it's worth its weight in gold, because the support you get and this sense of belonging and not being alone is a fantastic thing. They really are there to help you. So I cannot advocate joining Unite Community more. I don't know, I can't speak for any of the other unions, but I'm not aware of an equivalent of community elsewhere. And you know, Unite Community, I've been a member for several years now, and I can't imagine a time where I won't be part of it.
It's incredibly important, especially with citizens advice and other advocacy services just being slashed. The fact that they actually train and provide advocates for people, going through, PIP processes and other things that, somebody that is disabled or long-term sick should be able to be completely passive in the process and not be disadvantaged, but the reality is, unless you know your way around, sort of this minefield and you're well represented, the extraordinary number of people that are wrongly turned down. I mean, just the appeal success rate, speaks volumes. And that was what first, got my attention. And I was so impressed with what they were doing. And that, so if anybody is looking after a disabled person, a sick person, you're in that situation yourself, there are so many reasons, sort of to, even if you're just wanting, to improve your community and you're wanting to join up with other people, fantastic training on how to get involved and skills that you can add, to your CV. It's inexpensive as far as most memberships go, and there are so many benefits.
Yes, and well, we've won a recruit there because Jackie's saying she's going to join. Let's be clear, we're not pushing this because we're trying to get people to vote for Howard Beckett, because the freeze date's already gone past, so anybody joining now won't get a vote in that, unfortunately. But the benefits of this unique section, I don't think any other union has anything close to it. Of networking people in, helping people to get engaged in collective action even when they're at work, and this kind of stuff is enormous, I think. So it's one of the jewels in the crown of Unite as a union, one of the things I'm proud of as a member, and would really encourage people to get involved. A couple of the comments coming through there. So Rory is in Kent Unite community, so their branch is nominated next week, and they're championing the cause of unpaid carers at national level. So Demo is an unpaid carer. Tell us a bit about that and say what you think.
Unpaid carers are so underrepresented in anything. It's our political parties are not interested in it. Other trade unions don't really big it up. The media certainly don't. But there are loads of us out there. We have given up work to care for disabled or long-term sick loved ones, and the amount of money that we save the economy each year amounts to something like £139 billion. It's an absurdly massive amount of money that if we were all to be sent back to work and not care for our loved ones and force the NHS to take care of them, that's the tab they'd have to pick up. That's the saving to the economy. Yet people who are unpaid carers, such as myself, we get this allowance, carers allowance. It amounts to a grand total of £67.60 a week now. It's less than what job seekers allowance is. Such is how we're valued. You have to work up to 35 hours a week caring to get this. So we're full-time workers, we're just unpaid for it. But that works out at an hourly rate of £1.92 an hour. I ask anybody in this country, would you honestly take up a job that paid you that? No, because we have no option to do it. The government have us over a barrel, and we're exploited as a result. And it isn't fair, and it's not right that people should be given such a pittance to exist on when they work so hard to look after loved ones. I look after 2 disabled people. I only get 1 lot of carers allowance. You only ever get 1 lot. It doesn't matter how many people you care for.
It's shocking. I think it was under Theresa May's government, and I'm sure they're still doing it now. They actually counted those receiving carers allowance in the employer's statistics, which means they're breaching minimum wage at that hourly rate. So, why is that not being? Why are we not more aware of that? Why is that not being challenged? We can't have it both ways.
It's a taxable income, and if the government actually allows people on carers allowance to do paid work on the side, but you can only work up to 16 hours a week and not earn more than £128 doing it. Otherwise, they take the entire carers allowance off you. There's no taper to it. It's gone. And that sum of money, that £67.60, is actually taken out of my wife's employment and support allowance. financially we're no better off. You would live in the household, obviously. The only benefit to doing it is I get some national insurance contributions towards my state pension. But for example, you get carers who live in another household, and they're receiving carers allowance for caring for somebody who lives elsewhere. That's money being taken out of a disabled person's household.
I know, it's just extraordinary. And most carers are doing far more than 35 hours a week. It's very often 24/7.
Yeah.
And then if you're lucky enough in, caring for somebody to get some extra help, the pitiful rates that the carers that are coming in, especially those that had to sleep over. I mean, we had this with my mother. We kept her at home until the end with Alzheimer's. And we very, very late in the day qualified for continuing healthcare, which is another battle in itself. And the rate that they pay people to sleep overnight, do you know what I mean? And, you don't get a decent night's sleep. You can be up and down all night, do you know what I mean? And it's got to change. And without unions like Unite, do you know what I mean? And the Labour Party, which is supposed to be the political arm of the unions, fighting for these changes, the cost to the economy and to people's health, carers, it takes a dreadful toll on their health. So we really need strong representation and leadership, to make these changes in society.
Yeah, but sadly, it's the leverage. It's having somebody prepared to stand up and represent people who have no leverage. We, as I said, we have no option. Of course, we wouldn't dream of not caring for our loved ones. Of course, that's what we're going to do. But it means we have no leverage. And when the government treats people with no leverage, so we will just treat them as how they like. But the trade union movement and Unite community and what they're doing in Kent community is fantastic. But I'd like to see the Unite trade union as a whole take up this baton for people who are exploited with no leverage, no way of forcing the issue. And pick up the baton and say, look, this is not right. We need to fight for these people. They do tremendous service. People out there in far worse situation than I am, and work a damn sight longer and for far more sick or disabled people. But everybody's treated, as Jackie Nash has put up on the screen there, it's slave labor essentially. $1.92 an hour. And like you said, most people work from longer than 35 hours a week. So if you bother to calculate your hourly rate, it goes down and down and down and down. I mean, 192 is the top end. It is disgraceful. It's bad that in the 6th richest nation in the world, there are people who are treated with such disrespect and disdain just because the government of the day can get away with it. And that's not even going on to the subject of people and how they're treated themselves.
It's absolutely critical that whoever takes over as General Secretary is somebody that is not afraid to ask the tough questions, to lead from the front on these issues. And, we're going to be losing a lot more of the workforce, as we come out of COVID, there's many more casualties. And for those that, can't join other unions, Unite Community is, a way in which they can plug in, be represented, be involved. But, for those that are members now and that can vote, please do your due diligence. Please, ask some good questions, and make, a good choice and make sure you vote. It's important. Unions have never been more important than they are now.
Let's take a look at what Howard Beckett is offering to Unite community members and anybody else in terms of the union and wider community, actually. Because his summary, his manifesto launches tomorrow at 7 p.m, which will be streamed on his campaign's Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels, as well as places like Socialist Telly. Excuse me, but he has given a quick summary of that manifesto there on his Facebook page for people to take a look at. Let's just see if I can make that come up a bit bigger. So join Howard and key Unite activists discussing the manifesto and the vision for our union. So he's got things on there. No repudiation of strike action. I mean, we've seen, again, it ties in with the Labour Party. We've seen the Labour Party, which is supposed to be the political arm of the Labour movement, failing to support and in some cases even condemning strike action by workers trying to defend their jobs and their terms and conditions. New strike and solidarity funds for regions and nations. So Unite already has, I think, well, a couple of years ago, it had a £30 million strike fund to support workers going on industrial action. That's already up to 40 million. And Howard Beckett is planning to increase that to at least 50 million and institute funds for regions and nations to take more effective action as well. New organisers to fight against precarious employment, the whole gig economy, and hire and fire, making a lot more jobs precarious these days as well. Outlawing fire and rehire, that's the campaign he's already leading for the union. Raising strike pay to £70 a day. Again, thanks to that fund and to the fact that the union is making good use of its resources. Comprehensive organising strategy for care, key area there that we've already been touching on. And of course, Unite TV. Socialist telly is an attempt to give the working class people a voice and counteract the lack of information on what's really going on that we get from our so-called mainstream channels. But Unite TV, with the resources that would bring, would be, a major game changer, I think, in terms of being able to actually inform people as to what's going on. So, I mean, tell us what attracts you out of that list there, and should entice people to come and watch that and give up an hour of their Saturday evening at 7 o'clock tomorrow.
Shall I start?
Yeah, jump in, mate.
Well, we've kind of got into this TV gig now, haven't we, mate? We quite like these interviews and these shows we're doing. So Unite TV, absolutely, I love the idea of this. There's the mainstream TV media is just absolute dross. The BBC's pumped full of Tories these days, and independent little outfits like us that exist online, as great as much fun as what we do and how much we believe in it. We don't have the financial backing that these billionaire owned or government run institutions have. But a trade union has got the finances and the clout to go toe to toe with them. So the idea of Unite TV coming into existence, Unite actually running its own TV news channel, for example, is a fantastic idea, and I think well overdue. And I sincerely hope other trade unions actually pick up the baton from it and run with it as well and do the same thing. I think the 15% pay rise for our NHS workers is also an absolutely critical one as well. Unpaid care, again, disabled people, long-term sick, in and out of hospital. I've been there. I know it. I know how valuable the NHS is to me. I know what wonderful things they've done for my family. And I think it's absolutely criminal that the Tories and the Labour Party currently are fighting over who can offer them the least but still get the political capital from it. They need 15% will bring up health workers' wages back up to where they were or where they should be if they hadn't had it all cut since 2010 when austerity came in. It's frankly money they're owed, and they're worth it. Look at what they've done for us during this COVID crisis. They have been absolute heroes, and they deserve more than bloody claps on a doorstep for it. Pay them a decent wage for the work that they do. Long hours, horrible hours, a lot of the time as well, and they deserve everything that they're asking for, frankly. And of course,
we've seen Labour's leadership desperately scrambling to try to explain away Keir Starmer's refusal to sign Unite's and other unions' joint letter on 15% for NHS workers as well. So again, it all ties back into why we need a politically engaged General Secretary in Unite, because politics affects working people exactly the same as it affects every other area of life. So if people think that a union shouldn't be involved in Westminster politics, they don't understand what's really going on.
Absolutely. When you consider how many companies, particularly Amazon that was in the media yesterday, in Europe, they've paid no corporation tax. So many have profited, obscene profits, sort of directly as a result of the pandemic. It just seems right that, it's not going to materially affect them, for them to pay their fair share. And the difference it would make to the people that have really been at the front line of this pandemic and have suffered. And they've had their pay slashed, as you know, since 2010. It's right that we make, these big corporations that are making, huge profits, especially out of the pandemic, pay their fair share, and that we have strong voices like Howard Beckett and the Labour Party should be pushing and making sure this is the time, to be holding politicians to account and pushing government to, make those changes and, make society fairer for all.
Agreed. And I mean, in terms of Unite Community, as Howard said, his plan is to expand it. He also wants to give more say to Unite Community members in the running of the union and let them participate fully in the democracy in terms of the union's national executive, et cetera, to build up the punch, if you like, that Unite Community members have as part of the union movement, which I think is really important and brilliant in the context of this discussion. So just quickly then I'll point out to people here, if you want to get involved in Howard Beckett's campaign, that's the website scrolling along there at the bottom if you want to help with that or help get your local union members activated and ready to participate in nominations and ultimately in the vote. The branch nominations period has started now, and you can make sure that your branch meets to hold its nomination meeting, and you can nominate Howard Beckett there. And if you want to see how to do that, then beckettforunite.co.uk/nomination is the website to go to for information there. There are some hurdles to overcome for people if they want to organize a meeting, especially if they're not in a workplace-based branch. The information on the Unite website is a bit lacking in terms of who the branch secretary is and where to go to get that done. But you can phone your local Unite office and badger them until somebody gets in touch. And I would encourage everybody, who is a member, you should be receiving, if your branch organizes a meeting, you should be getting an email for that. There are some concerns that some of the branches are being leaned on to not send out those emails if they think that members might vote for Howard Beckett. Well, that's unconfirmed, but it's possible. But do check your junk folders, etc., as well, and make sure that you haven't missed an email so you don't miss a meeting, because we've heard a few instances of that happening already. Anything else? With the last 2 minutes of the program, anything else that we'll go to you first, Nicola, that you want to put in terms of stuff we haven't covered yet through the program and what you'd want to say to anybody within Unite on their plans?
I would just say, if you're not decided about, which candidate to vote for, I would ask you, to do some due diligence. We all know the questions and the things that need to be doing and being asked, and look to see what the candidates' track records are, because it's really clear who has been, standing up and asking the tough questions and being active and leading, during, especially during this difficult time through the pandemic. So, if you're undecided, please do a little bit of due diligence and, and most important, please find out when your branch is meeting and vote, regardless of how you vote.
And just a quick plug again for that, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. before we go to demo to round off the program. Saturday night, 7 p.m. be on Facebook, social media, other social media platforms, YouTube, Twitter, etc., and also be getting streamed on Socialist Telly. So do join Beckett and Co for that launch tomorrow, where you'll find out exactly what he's standing for, and possibly even have the chance to put your questions through there if they're setting up to take questions during the stream. Demo, let's a couple of minutes to you, and then we'll bow out and let people get on with the day.
Yeah, ultimately, if you're in a trade union, if you belong to Unite, then you're already politically active, whether you think so or not. Politics affects your workplaces, affects every aspect of your daily lives. And this election is like any other election. And if you want your union to represent your own best interests, if you want them to take note of the things that matter most to you, then you need to make sure you have your say in it. So trade union elections, they have a habit of being historically low when it comes to turnout. This is something that has to change. We can't carry on with only minuscule amounts of the members that are out there. There is 1 million members of our union, Unite, 1 million of us. It's bigger than any political party in this country, in Europe, frankly. And so few of you take part in these elections. So please make a change. Find out when your meetings are going to be. Find out where your branch is. Yes, the details can be a pain in the ass to get hold of, but don't let that stop you, because ultimately the people who are putting barriers in your way are the people who probably have have their own best interests at heart rather than yours. So make sure you're fully informed, look into the candidates, as Nicholas said, do your due diligence, and take part in the selection. Make sure your branch is going to hold a nomination meeting. Make sure you're there, and make sure that you're standing up for the candidate that you think best represents you.
Brilliant. On that note, we'll bow out. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's joined us to watch the program. Thanks especially to those who've taken part by commenting, and particular thanks to Nicola, who has broken her duck in terms of appearing on live on Socialist Telly. Hopefully, it won't be the last time that she appears on, and hopefully, it wasn't too traumatic taking part in that. Do follow us on your social media. Make sure you hit the notification bell, the see first option, or the follow, depending which platforms you're on, and keep up with what we're putting out. Do spread the word so that working class people get their voices heard properly, and keep watching Socialist Telly. Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Steve and Damien.
Cheers.
Bye.